Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mind Shifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rahma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Well, happy 4th of July to everybody, and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio with Dr. Michael Ryce. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1, and that puts you in queue to talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments and questions. And looks like David's still with us on the show. We've got a couple of people in the chat room. Hope everybody's having a wonderful 4th of July. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, sweetie. Delight to be here. Welcome to the show, everyone. We're glad you're here to join us. Welcome, David. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, doing very well on this Independence Day, and the crew is out doing, well, actually they may be in ES listening to the show. There are a couple of them that are still in the middle of a project, and I've just settled down to listen into the show.
Awesome. Welcome. Anything on your mind today to share with people, being Independence Day?
I think it is interesting. I just mentioned it to Lenore. It's one of those, to me, kind of, it could just be in what I hear, it's 4th of July rather than Independence Day, and I wonder if people really are what's independence about, kind of like codependence, independence, or interdependence. And just looking at what that will bring up is to celebrate a sense of independence based on the history of this country. Maybe somebody's out there has some thoughts and wants to share their ideas around what is independence for a country, and where does that independence begin at? Where does it form from? That might be a topic.
Could be an interesting one. We'll see if anybody's got any thoughts or questions on it. In the meantime, we're here to put an end to the conversation about what people think it takes to create independence, and that is put an end to the conversation and the happening of a thing called war on planet Earth, and to recognize that we are all interdependent beings, and that it's a wonderful, awesome thing to be interdependent, as opposed to, as you say, David, codependent, where we think that everybody else is to blame for what's happening inside of us when something happens inside of us that is painful or creates turmoil in us. And our whole conversation, our main invitation that we put out there every day is to join the team that changed the world. What do we mean by that? Well, we're going to invite you to be on the team that says, if I'm in pain or turmoil, maybe I have some inner work to do. Maybe instead of trying to get somebody else to change or try to fix somebody else, maybe I'll just take responsibility for what's happening inside of me. And if I want to pop off at somebody, instead of popping off at them and blaming them for what's going on inside of me, I'm going to start looking at, how did I create this? What's my responsibility here? What do I have to do with this, as opposed to wanting to take it out on somebody else when I don't like the way things are turning out in my life? And so to take responsibility for that means, of course, that you ultimately have to go back and take responsibility for everything in your bloodline around whatever issue it is you're looking at. And the way we invite you to do that is through the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness, where the tool of forgiveness has nothing to do with letting other people off the hook for what's happening inside of us, but rather is a tool with which, if you're in pain or turmoil, you go inside yourself, you remove your pain and your turmoil. If you go to our website, www.whyagain.com, on the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. And the first 7 links under that section will give you the whole forgiveness story. Chapter 24 of my book, the actual forgiveness worksheet itself, and 5 different radio shows where we've actively walked somebody through a reality management forgiveness worksheet. So how do you do it? You got a custom set of instructions on our website. Of course, they're free, as is the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? You go order it from there. There are lots of videos, audios. We actually just had an assessment done on our site to find out that we had over 5,000 pages, and accolades and acknowledgement for Jeannie for what she's built. And what's being rebuilt is going to be pretty awesome. And our new site will be www.whyagain.org. So whyagain.org is going to be the new site. If you want to take a peek at it, it's up and running, but everything isn't all in place at this point, so there's still work being done on it. But go to those links and sit down with a worksheet, pen in hand, and listen to a radio show, and you've got a whole set of, if this is a whole new idea to you, you've got a full custom set of instructions for how to fill in the worksheet process. And then, if you listen to those shows and you have questions, then the thing to do is pick up the phone and call us and ask the question, because we're here to sort out each of the questions that you have around the process of forgiveness. And so we welcome you each to the show. And, Gene, do we have any callers? Dr. Tim with us by chance? Your mute button on, sweetie?
Remove my mute button here. Dr. Tim is not on there with us, but we have some conversation going on in the chat room, which is a perfect conversation also for today, and that's the difference in freedom and liberty. And that we have total liberty to do whatever, but we have to accept the consequence that goes along with it, and sometimes that consequence is a price, so it isn't free.
Sure, and so freedom, you don't have a lot of freedom about the way the universe works. A lot of people cry freedom, and they say, well, I just want it to work the way I want it to work. Well, you know something? It's not going to work the way you want it to work. It's going to work the way it was set up to work. You know, you get up in the morning, you have the perfect liberty to put your feet outside of the bed, and you have absolutely no freedom whatsoever to determine which direction they go. They're going to follow the law. The law says they're going to go down to the floor. They're not going to go to the ceiling. It doesn't matter how much you want them to go to the ceiling. They're just not going to go there. And so if you understand that this liberty that we each have comes with a result in every choice that we make. Many people want to make choices. They want the freedom to make choices, but they don't want the result of the choice that they make. And if the result shows up, you know, then they're running off to try to get somebody else to fix it or be responsible for it. Many people engage in, you know, they have the liberty to engage in behaviors that are known to cause, for instance, many different types of diseases. You have perfect liberty to do that if you choose, but you don't have a choice about whether the disease process is going to show up. And you watch how many people want that freedom, or they call it freedom, to do what they want. And then they want somebody else to pay the bill, or somebody else to be responsible, or somebody else to fix them when things don't turn out the way they wish they had when they were crying freedom. So we definitely have that liberty, and the highest form of liberty, I think, is to be able to own what goes on in your mind, in your body, in your life, instead of being controlled by the previous generations, which most people are. You look in the ancient teachings where they understood this, and they spoke about how the sins of the fathers are passed to 3 and 4 generations. So they said, look to the lives of the fathers, far as but a shadow of theirs upon the earth. So when that word sin in the ancient Aramaic is an archery term, it's got nothing to do with the Greeks' idea of something terrible you've done or an identity you should buy. It's just an energy that's off the mark. So as an archery term, when you fired at the target, the scorpion yelled sin. It's like, take another shot. You missed the target. You missed the bullseye. And so when you miss the mark, then you get to experience the consequences, the results of that missing the mark. And you get to bring yourself back into alignment with how the laws operate. And when you understand how they operate, you realize that they can't be broken, and the laws have absolutely no interest in being obeyed. Men play this game of law is the rule of a superior. Law is not the rule of a superior. Law is simply the way the eternal forces work. If you harmonize and you know how they work, you're going to have a great time. If you don't harmonize, you don't know how they work, then you're going to come into all kinds of avoidable collisions, and you will be fractured. This law itself will sustain no fracture whatsoever. You can't break a law. Laws happen. When you understand how things happen, and we're talking about in the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the social universes. When you understand how things happen, you start to be able to connect cause and effect, and you're able to more and more and more take charge of your life. So that's what we're here to support you in. That's where we're heading. So how does that fit with the conversation in the chat room, sweetie?
Perfect. And Nene is in the chat room, and she says just a reminder that she's doing a Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing this coming Saturday, July the 7th. And it's going to be in Coral Springs from 10 a.m. until 7 p.m. with a fee of $125, which is a very reasonable fee for an all-day workshop, and it's the most awesome experience that someone can experience. And so
For
go
sure.
and breathe. And her number is 954-607-9539 if anybody has any questions or wants to talk about it. And she says she's also on the switchboard with her hand up, and I now see her, so let's turn her on. Hello, Nene.
Welcome. Hey there, young lady. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. How are you?
Wonderful.
Doing well,
Hi, Nene.
thank you.
Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th, yes. Thank you so much because of the liberty. I also had that question the other day, and now that I heard it again, I understand it better. Very nice. So I would like to share that in my process of studying and then translating and creating the brain cells in English and Spanish and putting things together, I was working today in the Lord's Prayer and about a set of instructions. And then what comes with a lot of emotion is that I understood in the purpose, commitment, and personal power workshop that I did.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose is to develop a viable, conscious, spiritual body. And now, after working with the tools for a year and a half, it came inside of me that the commandments, the Beatitudes, the Lord's Prayer, the forgiveness work, it's all about that purpose.
Absolutely. There are all ways to support you in achieving that purpose. And, of course, ultimately, that is that of having this human life that whatever's going on in our world, we maintain within us. And our definition of human life is a very practical definition. We don't do it in words because you can't get words big enough to contain human life. But a simple holding of a newborn child will define human life very nicely for you. And when you integrate that definition into your life, then you get to see how much time you spend giving that up and what's required to be restored to a human life. That's ultimately the purpose, I think, of every mind, heart, and being on planet Earth. That's what we're here to support you in.
Yes. And then I find it very practical.
Yes, absolutely.
People, it's so practical. It's every day you do the forgiveness. Whenever things come inside of you, they're out of the mark. Then you breathe, and then you realize that that's your responsibility. That they are, those energies are within you. But there's a possibility to respond differently. It's practical, and it's about like people going to the gym or people driving every day or things like that.
Yes, It's something that everyone on the planet would have benefited greatly if we simply were taught this right from the beginning. If it were kindergarten understanding, if it were something that parents did with children when they were babies, as they grew into language, and teaching the child how to forgive right there on the spot. Oh, would our world be different today? So much different. And you watch young children when they start to use the forgiveness process and they go into upset, they'll just in an instant turn, Mom, Dad, I need a worksheet. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so for me it's like I'm conceiving. Each day I conceive internally, and in my words I can see that my words are different and people attracting in my life and growing as a human being. I think it's been the most rewarding experience. You have to experiment that. I cannot find the words really to express what I feel inside.
I understand. I've gone through many layers of that as I've learned this work and integrated it into my life. It's pretty powerful, pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So your breath workshop is Saturday. You've got a support group tomorrow night in Coral Springs. Is that correct?
Yes, tomorrow night, and then I'm going to talk about the Lord's Prayer and those instructions, and then I'll do that the first hour, and the second hour we'll do the worksheet, and the group is very strong, and we invite everybody to come. You speak English or Spanish, it's fine, and it's growing in strength and in light. It's very, very nice. Each day I have calls from them, and they invite other people. I've had visitors from Boston and people that are also in the spiritual world, and they come and do the worksheet, and they open for them a new way to reconnect with Source.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to offer that to people, isn't it?
Yes. So I hope that a lot of people come breathing, and that it's the most awesome experience that is being alive.
For sure. All right, and anybody who needs any additional directions, you got Nene's phone number, or you can go to our website, whyagain.com, and look under support groups, and there you'll see Coral Springs. And Patricia will be doing the support group in Fort Lauderdale tomorrow night. Tonight, I'm not sure whether Michael and Margaret are going to do their support group tonight, with it being July 4th. I hadn't heard from this, whether or not it was going to be ongoing. So, Michael and Margaret, if you're listening, maybe you could call us and let us know so we can put that out there. And you see all things moving.
Everybody. If there are people from other groups, and this is the moment to breathe, everybody's welcome. Just talk to me. We'll make the arrangements. And, we always need to know how many people, so we make sure that we have the space and everything we need.
Very good. All right, Nene. Blessings. Thank you for your call.
Thank you.
All right, lots of love. And happy Independence Day. Our calling number is 646-200-4169. If anyone has a thought, an answer, a question, an idea, anything about the work at all, we would be delighted to hear from you. 646-200-4169. So, Jean, do we have any callers? Anything happening in the chat room? Mute button, sweetie. Hello, Jeannie.
Hey, there is one more caller. It's area code 970. You're on the air.
In Colorado.
970. Welcome to the show, Colorado. This must be Carrie.
It is. Can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you loud and clear. And I was actually thinking about calling. I was actually thinking about calling you, and perhaps because the slant on our conversation yesterday was a little different than most questions that come up in the show are more in terms of intimate relationships. So if you'd be comfortable, for us to repeat some of that conversation, just to get the twist on a situation such as the one you were dealing with, where it's not an intimate, committed type relationship, and therefore there's perhaps a different slant. So if that fits and feels comfortable for you, I'd love to chat about that again, and then whatever else you have on your mind.
Well, that was why I called, because I've had such a big shift since yesterday. It's been awesome. And I thought I would give a little summary of that and kind of how you helped me kind of go a new direction with things. And, and then just jump in whenever you want to. But basically, I talked to you, and what I said was I was actually I'm working with a web developer who's a nice young man, ex-Marine, was raised by a father who was in the mob. I learned this kind of as we went down the road a little bit, and I've been working with him probably 2 months. And early on, when I started working with him, I asked him a question about something, and he just went into this totally irrational rage and just would. And I sat there, and I got really hot, and I thought to myself, like physically, and I thought to myself, wow, okay, I'm not going to take this personally, but I'm actually paying this guy, and he's sitting here talking to me like this. There's something not right with this picture. Well, I think if I was where I am now today, I probably would have stopped the relationship right then. But what I thought to myself at the time was, well, he's good. He says he's fast. He's coming out with something really nice that I haven't seen anybody else be able to quite do this kind of work. So I'm going to stick with him. Hopefully we can be done in a couple weeks, and then I'll move on. And but that didn't happen. He kind of has this way of just dragging things out and making. And I'm actually borrowing money to pay for this web work to be done. And so it's not like I have a huge budget to work with, but I'm kind of a completion person, and I want to see things get done. I want to see step by step something getting done. And he's sort of this process person who's just dragging things out, and he goes into these insane tirades regularly and lives really differently than me, drinks Pepsi every day and has an ulcer and stays up all night working on things and has a million customers pulling him different directions. And it's not a rational, clear scene that I'm connected with him in, and I started feeling very uncomfortable about it.
We just lost you, Carrie. Carrie, we just lost you. Not sure what happened. But maybe if you'd hang up and call back in again if you can hear me. Your voice
she's
just started to garble.
Still on the switchboard, but she's still on the switchboard, but I lost her too. There is another caller. You want to wait for Carrie to call back in?
So,
or do you want to?
Has she hung up yet?
Not yet. It's still spinning.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and disconnect her, and then we'll just take that call, and then we'll bring Carrie back on. I don't know, that was kind of strange.
All right. Hold just a moment. Area code 617.
617, you're on the air. Welcome to the show. Are you with us, 617?
Okay, that is weird too. And Carrie still hasn't disconnected.
Well, that's kind of strange.
Yeah, let me refresh the switchboard here and see.
Okay. So area code 617, you're connected. Are you there? I guess not. Everybody's being independent today.
That's what Independence Day is, huh? Okay, I'm refreshing the switchboard to see if it had anything to do with that.
So, Carrie, if you can call back in again, I'd love to continue the conversation. Technical difficulties, what can you say?
Absolutely. So go ahead and do some chatting, and as soon as they come back on, then I'll interrupt you.
Okay. So Carrie, if you can hear us, call in, and we'll continue that conversation. we'll see what we can do here. I just strange.
It might have something to do with Blog Talk because it seems like the switchboard's now hung up.
Oh, really?
You'll give it just a few minutes here, and we'll keep trying. So go ahead and talk until I get it back up.
Is David still on?
I don't know. The switchboard's froze. He had disappeared and came back on, and I did turn him on. So if he's still there, he is on.
Are you there, David? Can you hear us? Okay, we're not hearing you, David, if you are hearing us.
That's really weird.
In any event.
Okay, I got the switchboard back up. Area code 719 is on the air. And David is showing us being on.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, it's Carrie again. Can you hear me?
Oh, good.
We got
you back. Your voice
I'm on my
disappeared.
landline now, and I'm on my landline. I was on my cell, but I had dialed back in on both phones, and you guys just weren't hearing me. So there must be a glitch somewhere.
Okay. Well, we got you now, so go ahead.
You got me now. So anyway, I was going through this journey, having this guy working for me, but going into these tirades all the time that were just incredibly irrational. And I was just staying in my center, and breathing, and yet I knew it was really accessing a lot of stuff. And this kind of good feeling I had every day about my work was starting to turn into this kind of scared nightmare feeling. And it's interesting, he has a dog named Nightmare. And anyway, huh?
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and I started saying to myself, okay, I'm having to look at what in me pulled in a person like this again, who's not respectful to me, not kind, who's really being actually more and more almost verbally abusive. And this guy is working for me, and he's stretching this work out. So even though when he produces something, it's absolutely wonderful, but in between is all this ranting and raving and not really getting much done. And, oh, man. So I was getting to a point of real frustration, and I talked to you, and you suggested doing some worksheets. And because I'm actually half Lebanese and I'm a quarter German Jewish, so, and then a quarter mixed European, so in my heritage. So in my DNA and even my genetic encoding, I've got this history of, where women have been treated as lesser beings. And it's interesting, in the whatever many hundreds of worksheets I've done over the last year, what almost every single time comes up on my worksheet is there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. And now I'll cry. So that for sure goes back to, I know that's genetic. I can just feel the depths of that resonating in me. And what I was, just to say really quickly, then another thing you and I talked about was the stoning of Sonora M. I can't remember that name.
Sonora,
what was it?
Yeah.
Sonora. And so
Sonora,
I didn't actually get the movie, but what I did is I went on YouTube and I looked for clips of it, and it's pretty hair-raising to watch it. And then there are a lot of other clips near that on the quote-unquote honor killings that are done in certain sects of Islam, to even where these fathers are killing their 16-year-old daughters who are all dressed in black and who are, just so oppressed. And then, they look sideways at a guy they're falling in love with or something, and they end up getting killed for it. And how even the Amnesty International has a really big section of its work that's now sorry. This is a really deep thing for sure.
So we're here to support you going into the depth of it.
Yep. So it's really a deep core, ancient, and I watched a bunch of those videos last night, And what it really did for me was, and I'm not really big, I know you like to watch movies to sort of help dredge up the stuff, and I have such a vivid imagination. If I watch too many movies, it's something I just can't get out of my mind, and I like to get it dredged up and cleared out. But I did watch a bunch of those, and and they have literally right on YouTube these women getting stoned to death. I mean, news footage of it and the news reports in England, and sometimes these women will get away to England and their families will follow them and kill them there. And it's just
unbelievable, isn't it?
Oh, it's just absolutely, unbelievably, insanely appalling, Just to think that as a human race, anybody is still doing this stuff. And it was neat in the stoning of Sonora that actually had the scene of her being stoned that somebody had posted on YouTube, and a lot of the comments underneath it were so beautiful. There were people of all different faiths saying, this is just unconscionable, and that, anybody who calls himself a religion who is still doing this needs to rethink what they're doing. And so anyway,
well,
really, go ahead.
When you say the it's just unconscionable that it's something that's still happening today. It's unconscionable that it's anything that's ever happened in the human race. That when we think about human life, if you hold a newborn child and you tap into what human life is, this is obviously not an action that's done by human life. And actually it's a powerful confirmation of the fact that you can train carbon-based memory to do anything and call it religious and good. You can train this body-mind device to do anything, I'm sure the fellow that you're working with your website, he's playing out, I could just about guarantee, a power person dynamic. His power person, when his power person would do that, it was his way of, keeping his son on track and making sure he stayed on the straight and narrow, and the son carrying on that power person dynamic, being controlled by that rage at the least little thing, just the smallest thing that displeases, that is, that violates a goal, and he can go off into exactly what his power person did to him, but what his mind says is, this is how I protect myself, or what have you. And it is no protection, but it is certainly the dynamic passed from generation to generation. And of course, one of the reasons for me that I wanted to continue this, or to bring this conversation to the show, is because when we talk about, usually our conversations are more along the lines of close personal relationships and committed intimate relationships, and the idea that choosing to leave is a major issue. Choosing to depart from a relationship is something that is not to be undertaken lightly, because so often it's just more of the same insanity. The mind will create all kinds of rationalizations. The mind will say, yes, I'm married, I'm committed, I'm in this relationship, but at the least drop of the hat, if you displease me, that is, if you violate one of my goals, my carbon-based memory with all its hostility or fear says, now I'm out of here and I'm leaving. And that's just like what's running the game today. And in the case of the situation you're working with, where it's a business relationship, I think it's reasonable to say, thank you very much, but I don't need to pay to be abused. I will certainly look at the part of me that was willing to put up with that for even 30 seconds and clean that up in me, and I can choose to reasonably step apart from that relationship, unless somewhere my guidance and intuition says, no, I'm supposed to be here to support this person's healing, which is often what happens in deeper personal relationships. It's certainly reasonable to say, enough's enough. I don't need to pay for this, and I'll move on. Thank you very much.
Right. And in the time period that this kind of thing was going on, at the end of his tirades, he would come to this point of apology, and I would say, it's okay. All of us go into certain reactive patterns that we learned as children, and we're moving into a more loving space to learn to heal those. I didn't really want to spend a ton, I didn't feel like it just wasn't the situation to turn it into a whole process. He wasn't really interested, but I would make comments and he would call me up and say, "Oh, I'm making sun tea today instead of having Pepsi," and so he was really proud that he could come and tell me that he was making more positive choices, and at the same time,
right.
it's kind of just taking my work into a place that is not a healthy place for it to be at this moment. I really need to get some completion on things and need to keep moving forward. And I was thinking as I was walking last night, after I watched some of those videos, and I was thinking, or this morning, I was thinking of, and I just had tears, and I was thinking of how, these different phases of civilization throughout history where huge numbers of people have determined that it was okay to do certain things, like the Nazis in Germany and the Crusades and, Alexander the Great, and these just, these terrible things that have been carried out.
Big question mark after Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, we call that a civilization. I love what Mahatma Gandhi said when he asked him what he thought of Western civilization, and he said he thought it would be a really good idea.
Yeah, I've heard.
When you think about it, you look at how often Western civilization or so-called civilization has gone in. Western countries have gone into other people's property, other people's lands, and raped and pillaged and slaughtered and just stolen everything they had.
Yeah.
And these people hold themselves up as civilized people. And this is not human life. This is not human activity. It's not possible for humans to do things like that. We've got forms that look human, but whatever way you brainwash them, they'll just spit out whatever's in them until one starts to wake up and say, maybe this isn't such civilized behavior after all. Maybe coming into a land where we're starving and the inhabitants of the land called the Red Man support us by showing us how to grow food, maybe we should honor those people and uphold their liberty rather than slaughter them wholesale and steal everything they have. Hello, let's wake up, folks. These are human beings. Not that there wasn't lots of that going on on this continent before, the white man arrived, but hello, we need to wake up as a species to who we are.
Yes.
And to recognize that this awesome active presence of love is what needs to be governing our behaviors rather than the insanity passed from generation to generation to generation.
What I want to say that is so exciting that struck me this morning is I can feel the shift that has taken place inside of me over a year of doing the worksheets and just staying with this work and listening to the radio shows on my iPod and just, kind of helping my brain cells shift. There's something so amazing that happened in the last 24 hours because I kept saying to myself, okay, I'm in the middle of this thing with this guy that is working for me, and it's dredging up a deeper level of this core pain, and I'm ready to shed it and let it go and cancel, whatever is in me that's holding that energy in my field. And by the time I woke up this morning, it's just amazing to me the depth of the levels of clearing that is going on. And it's almost like you could draw a line on a graph that goes kind of angles up for a long time, and then it just shoots up because it's like been removing layers, and then, okay, let's go in and pull out some really deep core stuff here, and then it just and then you pull that out, and it just there's this whole nother level of opening. All of a sudden I felt like I could see all of human history and the terribleness and the sadness of this, these insane patterns that have been carried out by entire cultures, and then seeing the world that I actually live in, which is very progressive, and most of my friends are very progressive, and they're progressive in everything from being openly loving and being sexual and being, all of this stuff that is like the complete polar opposite of what these shut down ancient systems have held. And I could just feel this, oh man, it's just amazing. Just feeling the whole neurology just getting a reflection of this past, asking to let go of whatever resonance is still being held in me. And last night it was a full moon, and I actually took a paper and I wrote, I now release all abusive patterns that I carry inside myself, because I realized after I talked to you, and then I put a little hair in that and rolled it up and burned it. We do a lot of times, some friends and I do a burning ceremony on the full moon to let go of the old symbolically. But when I talked to you, the whole concept that I just got this big flash that this guy who is doing this work for me, his voice is a voice inside of me, this abusive voice, and I, that's really just enlightening, to get that.
Breathe.
Yep.
Breathe deep into that one.
Yeah.
And two things that you really bring out very powerfully that I'd like to reinforce are, one, that you're reaping the benefits of choosing to do an ongoing process of inner work, and the depth of insight and the depth of relief you've gotten is just the fruit of the work you've been doing for over a year now. And so as you do that, it's just really gratifying to hear you seeing that kind of change in yourself. And then the second point that you bring out is the one that says, until you can bring it to the surface to look at it, trying to organize your life, trying to create a control game where you control everybody and everything so nobody gets close to that pain in you, just leaves us in degeneration. And that the person who shows up that can bring that up is in fact a gift. Now, someone who's verbally, physically, emotionally abusive doesn't mean you need to hang out with that gift forever, because there can come a point where you can say, okay, I got that I have a part in me that needs to be cleaned up around this. Thank you very much. But I'm not going to stay here to be whacked. Thank you. I'm going to let go of this. But that it does come up is the only way that you get to look at it and move through it. And you have to stay in integrity with your tools to move through it. Otherwise, what will happen is the old pattern will simply come forward. If you're not supportable, then the old pattern will come forward. You'll go into the old fear, rage, or whatever the game is, and bang, lost in unconsciousness again.
Yeah.
Lost in the power person dynamic. And what we're looking to do is pick up from those dynamics.
Since I had a relationship that ended last spring where a lot of this stuff might have come up, if I had had the tools to continue and the other person had had the tools to continue, and since that happened, here shows up somebody else in my life to help me clear the issues that really had surfaced at the end of that other relationship. And, or I don't want to say end, because it's still, there's
changing
the other
its
person
form.
is still.
Right. Well, and the another point that you make there that's very powerful to understand is that when you're working within the context of a committed relationship and you have a partnership where each person's willing to do their work, to take responsibility for the hostility and fear, then you can accelerate the speed at which those things come out very, very intensely. And as you invite support and you are support for those things to shift and change, and everything moves forward. It's pretty potent, pretty powerful when you bring them into a relationship.
Absolutely.
And of course, you can always bring them in unilaterally, as with your with this fellow who's doing your web work. He sounds like he has no interest in integrating the tools, and so not necessarily even a conversation that needs to happen, but as you do, unilaterally, whatever comes up, you can choose to heal and choose to recreate circumstances that serve you in a way that really supports you.
Yep, and I've already put some of that in motion, so thank you so much for your input. It's been really helpful, and really exciting to keep moving ahead with all this.
Fabulous. Well, glad to be on the team, Carrie. And for those who want to check out Carrie's work, carrieellis.com, and she's the author of the book, Super Immunity Secrets, and soon to be released. Go ahead.
21st Century Superhuman.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that one.
Yep, me too.
CARYELLIS.com. Check it out.
Okay.
By the way,
Thank you,
did you get the message that I think we did talk about this, that our new site is coming online, so check that out too. It's fun to watch what's happening with it.
Your new site is fabulous. The people that are doing it are really doing a great job, Jeannie included. I mean, it's really beautiful. Looks really, really wonderful. And I did have a conversation with those folks, so
cool.
Really nice.
Fabulous.
They talked to Susan, and she said, "Oh yeah, I know you from the radio show." I was like,
Yeah, she listens pretty regularly.
That's cool. Good. All right. Well, listen, you guys have an awesome time on your adventures, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay. Blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Area code 702, you're on the air.
702, welcome to the show. I'm calling from Las Vegas area. And who have we got?
Hello, this is Rick from Heartland.
Well, hey there, Rick from Heartland. How are you?
Good.
Wonderful.
We're all busy forging away. We're looking forward to the intensives coming up. And
so am I.
With the oven project is going along well, and we're having a small get-together today. I'm looking forward to having a little bit of help to lift it up to put it in the new cabinet that's being built.
Ooh, sounds like fun.
Yeah,
I look forward to seeing. Maybe if you've got a cell phone that'll take a picture, you can text us a picture. That'd be cool. So for those who are familiar with Heartland, Rick has just installed, we do all fresh and raw food for the intensives, and Rick has just installed a new 6-burner stovetop and a couple of new ovens in the kitchen so that for work week we'll be able to do some of Ari's awesome cooked food. July 12th we're starting with Food, Fun, Forgiveness, and Work Project, and if you want to check out the things some of the things that we're going to do with food, you could check in the archives back in the last 2 weeks or so. There are a couple of shows there that are marked with Ari's name on them. And we spent almost a whole hour talking about food. You're going to hear some cool stuff. I guess I should say hot stuff because we're going to be doing some cooked food too. But so, Rick, how can we support you today? What's happening? What's on your mind?
Well, right now I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing great.
Awesome.
We are practicing regulatory speech, or the regulatory peach game.
Right. Cool.
It is an awesome experience with other folks, supporting one another. It's just awesome. We each have the experience of perhaps being triggered, and myself. When I get triggered, it reminds me of years and years ago, when I used to sometimes drink a little too much, and I was so sure that I was just as fit to drive as anybody else. But of course, when I sobered up a little bit, I realized that was not the case. Well, the same thing happens when my anger comes up. My hostility comes up, and I firmly believe that I know what's going on, and I don't.
That's a major insight. That wouldn't change your life in a hurry.
Yes. But
it's such an amazing thing to recognize that when the mind is using hostility or fear, that it is absolutely telling us a lie. And we hold this reality in our minds, and we believe the reason why I'm angry and the reason why I'm ready to puke on you is because of what you did and what you said. And see, my mind can prove it. If only you'd followed my directions, if only you did it the way I said it should be done, then everything would be okay. And to recognize when a reality in our minds is accompanied by hostility or fear, we're insane. And that's a great comparison, Richard, to look at. When I was drinking, I thought I was a good driver. The cop didn't think so, but I thought I was. And it's the same kind of incompetence that allows us to believe when we're ready to take somebody's head off, when we're in hostility or fear, and we have no idea that it's all an inside job and all about what's going on inside of us. And furthermore, we're literally under the control of our power person, usually the very person we never wanted to have control us. We're back under the power and the influence of that power person. So, maybe I'll shift that conversation a little bit in the workshop to being under the influence. If you're under the influence of hostility or fear, you're under the influence of your power person, and to kind of catch our attention with that. Good point.
Yeah, as you pointed out, anger is a drug.
Yes, absolutely. So, Rick, is this idea copyrighted? Because I'm going to use this one about the alcohol and being incompetent to assess our driving skill. That's a great analogy for making the point of when I'm in hostility or fear and thinking I'm competent when I'm really not, that I'm really, truly under the influence.
Yeah, I believe it was my right-mindedness that made that analogy for me to see.
Right. It's a good one. Excellent one. Very cool. I've the last couple of times we've talked, I've had the thought of suggesting to Mama when she finishes school that she make the trek out to Heartland and do a longer-term program with you two guys. It'd be kind of fun too.
It would. There's logistical things to consider.
Right, I understand. Anyway, it's a thought. It's out there in the universe. We'll see what manifests out of it.
Yes.
Cool. Well, anything else to share with us? Is anybody there at Heartland got anything? By the way, those who are listening to the show who haven't heard Rick's voice before, he's one of the crew that's out at Heartland right now who's helping to get things ready for intensives. And so half a dozen or so folks out there working together on the external property and on the internal work and creating support for each other and deepening the use of the tools.
One thing I would like to point out that I've discovered is doing this with other people who have similar goals is that I get to experience them, and knowing that I am doing the very same thing when I'm in that mode.
Yes.
And it's
it's so easy to see with someone else, isn't it? One of the biggest disorders of the human mind is that blockage of truth.
Yes.
And to love truth enough to get to see it differently is a very powerful thing. And the only place where we can't see it differently and we're rationalizing our hostility or fear is where we're in just total blockage of truth, and we're sure that it's all somebody else's fault. Or there's a goal that distorts the output of my mind. If I have, let's say, for instance, a covert goal, and I haven't maybe even admitted it to myself, then when I observe my mind starting to serve up aberrant realities toward a particular object of attention, it might be someone that I say I honor very much and I really cherish them. And then when my mind starts to serve up garbage toward them, when I want to diss them, when I want to go into hostility, I want to blame them or whatever, or I want to put them into a no-win situation, it's because I have an underlying goal, an unconscious goal that's trying to take me off in another direction. And there's that line we spoke about yesterday of the Course in Miracles. It says you must understand the distorting power of the way you want it to be. So if I'm on one path, but I've got an unconscious goal or one I'm not really admitting to myself fully, I find myself starting to tear something or somebody down that I otherwise say I love and honor, but I'll be tearing them down because this other goal is distorting the output of my mind to unconsciously move me in the direction of the new goal instead of maintaining integrity with the old goal.
Yeah.
Very good. Do you have any other thoughts for us, sir? Is there anybody else there that has a thought? We've just got maybe 3 or 4 minutes left.
No, I don't think so. Mary Lou's down with David. They're I think listening to this in another building. But
okay. Very good. Well, let's see if Jeannie's got another caller for us. Sweetie, are there any other callers? Have we got time for a caller?
Well, there was someone in the chat room that was wanting to know if we could take another caller, that they had a question, but then they disappeared, and there's nobody on the switchboard with their hand up, so I am assuming not.
Well, if that person's still listening, you could make a call in, 646-200-4169, and we've got a couple of minutes to answer a question. Otherwise, if you have a question for us, you can certainly let us know, and then tomorrow you could call in early in the show, and we'd be there to answer your questions.
Dr. Tim is on now.
Oh, hey there, Dr. Tim. How do you be, sir? Maybe we can take up the last couple of minutes sharing about the support group last night.
All right. Well, we had a wonderful group. We had 5 or 6 people plus me, and somebody who's brand new decided to volunteer to do a worksheet, and had a major life issue that this is one of those people who had the willingness of someone like Lynn, who's on the audio file from a show.
Right. The first worksheet on the list.
Yeah, and in the first worksheet she ever did, she got an insight that's going to change her life. And she had been through a devastating life experience and was holding resentment about that, and actually wishing ill on people, and she got to see that, you know, she's fully an adult now, and the insight she got went back to something when she was 20 or 22 years old, and what she's upset about with these other people is exactly what she did, and she hasn't dismantled her judgment about herself over those things from when she was 20. So a very tearful release, a very wonderful, lighter feeling. She went from deep frustration to complete relief. It was amazing. First worksheet ever.
It's always awesome to watch. It really is miraculous, isn't it, when people are introduced to how that forgiveness works. And by the way, if you're not familiar, folks, with the forgiveness process, go to our website, whyagain.com. Right-hand side, download worksheets, gives you the whole forgiveness story. We're down to about 25 seconds left, so we're going to close out the show and just say if you're going to be in Asheville Friday, Saturday, come join us. The flyers are on the website. Next week in Birmingham, Alabama for a week, and then off to Heartland for Food, Fun, Forgiveness, and Work Project, 9-day Y intensive, and a 9-day teacher training. Come and join us. Bring a stranger to the show tomorrow. Create the best year yet of your eternal life. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeannie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeannie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.